It's Roger once again, Mud Fossil University, talking about the Great Flood, and now I have unimpeachable evidence. I am waiting for anyone to confront me. I'm going to show you the chemistry, I'm going to show you the events, I'm going to show you how it laid out, and I'm going to show you where it is, and it is a KT boundary, and that is Noah's Great Flood. It has nothing to do with an impact. Now, how can I say that? Let's go deeper. I showed this in the last video, but I was told that I need to be a little more explicit and explain. Well, I am explicitizing right now. Once again, this is the KT boundary, and the reason they decided it was a meteor impact or an asteroid was because they found iridium. You see iridium in this layer, which was called the smectite layer, and iridium in this layer, the coal layer. Well, I know where that iridium came from, and it did not come from outer space. I say this layer from here up has nothing to do with space. That is from the Great Flood, and the creatures that were here in the Great Flood eroded to some degree basically the surface skin. That's what you're seeing. Kaolinite, I've been preaching about it. Kaolinite, bentonite, ball clays, plastic clays, smectites, flesh, which is nothing more than coal, which is absolutely nothing more than cellular membranes, which are two bags of carbon. They lose their volatile organic compounds, which are inside these carbon bags, and they end up turning to coal. Now, I'm going to explain this in great detail because there is no denying it, and I will debate anyone, anywhere, at any time, 20 of them at the same time. Because that's what it's going to take. Because every time I say, well, I don't know about that, because all I know is it just didn't happen. It was this way, and we know that you got shock quartz. Well, it's not shock quartz. I've shown that and proven that too. It is nothing more than lung tissue, which is fractured looking because what they have is transition metals in there, and I show this over and over and over. So it's not, and I like to confront it. What they use is the irradiated quartz from nuclear explosions. They say, look at how it cracked all that stuff. No, that is irradiated. Totally different. Totally different. They can contort anything they want, but it's totally different. The shock quartz that they're talking about, which is not shock quartz, it is from lungs, has a different look to it than the irradiated quartz, which irradiates around the edges, not cracking through the center. I mean, it cracks through the center, but the irradiation happens around the edges because it's smashed with light, not with smacking it and cracking it. A lot of things got to be looked at in a whole different way from mud fossils. The research we've done here. There's absolutely no question that keep saying absolutely no question. Well, there is no question, but they keep you can't say this, you can't say this. Well, they come and show me why I can't say that. I have DNA, I have certified tests, and I have the specimens, and I have everything to show this is true. And this is skin. And you know how I can prove this? Let me show you. And not through academia. They will never get onto this, because they have they look at one little bit and piece and they say, oh, this is how we define this thing, and they go on, and that's the end of it. They don't put the pieces together. This is the KT boundary. Remember these layers: coal, which was the original stuff that was on the ground here, the plants and trees and whatever was left of the creatures, was killed, and they became cellular membranes. All the volatiles were worked out of them. And that became part of this layer as well. But primarily, this was flooded creatures that were air-breathing creatures, drowned, starved, whatever they did during that flood. Some of them were stuck in the mud, the gigantic ones. And those we find today as the Devil's Tower is a foot. That I can prove. Devil's Tower is a foot. Those tendon fibrils that surround that are biological. They're limestone, CaCO3 with porphyritic inclusions. There's kaolin clays all over them, which is the slip clays that are the synovial sheaths. I have done my homework, my friends. And I know what I am saying cannot be challenged. That's why they don't challenge it. So let's go and look at what kaolin clay consists of. Then let's look at what smectites are. We know what coal is. It's the same as this, which is cellular membranes. They're bilipid, two bags of carbon, and when they lose all the contents of them, they become coal. Then we're going to see what is the deal with iridium. Why is iridium here? I can tell you why it's there, because you have every single transition metal there is in your body, and they all do work. They think they're all there just hanging around here for nothing. No, those trace elements in the very, very minute amounts carry things through your body. A transition element, transition metal, has orbital electrons that allow it to pinch one little tiny electron, hold on to molecules that need to be delivered in your body, and that little bitty tiny electron drops it off with one little tiny change of pH. And I'm talking about a tiny change. One little electron. Give me an electron and I give you the oxygen. How's that work? Sure, no problem. Boom. You give me the electron and I will give you this carbon dioxide. How's that work? No problem. What are you going to do with it? I'm going to bring it up to the lungs. Then what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to turn it to carbonic acid. What are you going to do with that? You're going to turn it to carbonic gas. What are you going to do with that? And blow it out the lungs. Then what are you going to do then? Well, they're going to take in some oxygen. What are you going to do with that? I'm going to turn it into fuel. I'm going to use it for oxidation. Yeah, how are you going to get it in? I'm going to breathe it in. How does that work? Well, it comes in and attaches to hemoglobin, and the hemoglobin carries it around. How does the hemoglobin do that? Well, it's iron. Well, how does that work? We call it oxidation states. Oh, wow. They go down, it goes down to FeO3, which is oxidation state of O3. It comes back out FeO2 because it drops off the oxygen. Somebody wants it more than that. And it migrates its way across, comes back up through the veins. Goes back to the heart, to the lungs, to the lip, and back around. Keeps doing that every day of your life until you stop breathing oxygen. This is not a big, there's no big mystery here. These are the chemicals of life, and I understand them. They should understand them. I don't have to do the work for them. Why are they not doing their own work? And then they want me to, oh, you got to prove this. You got to do this. Well, no, what are those people supposed to be doing? This is what absolutely drives me crazy. All they are is like a reader of books to the kids. Give me $30,000, give me $100,000, and I will give you a certificate that says you can remember what I told you to read. That's just absolutely crazy. These kids are in debt for their entire lives for this. And they're not learning what's correct. And I don't think the universities care. They don't care at all, as long as they get the cash. And they have the status. It's all that matters. So, let's see about the reality of the chemistry. Remember now, coal was the dead stuff killed when the flood came. Turns into coal. Carbon bag membranes. Kaolin clay is the skin. You're going to see, and now I understand all the chemistry of it. Then you got the smectites, then you got the coal, you got iridium in there because it's a transition metal. And all the other transition elements are in there too. So don't tell me that's just iridium showed up there by accident because it came from space. Absolutely not. Every one of these metals are in here. And we're going to go see that right now because there is a thing, we're going to go look at clays, which this is clay. Why would clay come from outer space? Clay didn't come out from outer space. That's skin. Drive me nuts. All right, this is from a few weeks ago. I did the geology of Noah's flood. I'm not going to do a whole another one now, so you can look at this and see. This is a great saltwater flood. And that's exactly what did happen. So I'm going to play this and I'll be quiet and let it go from back then. Here goes. Giants, just like they said, miles tall. So get over it. Bones transition to source rocks. Now let's go see a dragon. Okay, once again. Well, I do want to tell you that the bones, everybody should know this by now if you've been watching the mud fossils. Bones do not last in salt water. They are in your body in a membrane that isolates them from the salt water that is in your body. But when you die, and that membrane loses effectiveness and the salt penetrates, turns the bones into source rock, which ends up being petroleum for the fossil fuels. Here goes. Again, back to geology giant is over, fish. Case closed on my channel. Now listen to what I have to say. It's a gigantic fish laying there in the desert. That's its scales. That's its tail. This dragon right here was trying to kill that fish and spit all of this, exactly the same thing that is in the most noxious, toxic venoms of snakes, at that fish, and it combusted right here and landed all over his back and his fin and into his vital flesh here and ate away at it. Now, you have Google. You can go up here and look at this. I have many, many, many videos on this, and it will not be addressed by anyone in geology. Total ignoring facts. Now, I'm going to tell you something else. If you look, I didn't mention it in this video, but if you look, well, I'm not going to go that deep into it, because if you want to come up here and look at it. But I'm going to show you down here. This is a dragon. These are the dragon scales, and this is the Atlas Mountains. And there's no question it's a dragon. If you could, there's nobody can say it isn't a dragon. So if you, this is up on the this thing is almost 1,000 miles long. 1,000 miles long. Crazy. Well, good for you. You can think whatever you want. That's the flashy stuff you see on dragons in all the parades. And that little fluty stuff that runs down the side, and here's all this dragon back going on there. Now, what is going on through his throat here? Well, we're seeing all of his dragon scales, and you can see them there in these little pads. That allows for the flexibility of the neck. You come down here and look carefully, you'll fully understand this. But you have to look and think. You can't just say, well, that's crazy. Well, it is crazy. I didn't say it wasn't crazy, but it's true. Now, what else happened? It says in the biblical text that there was a great and mighty sword that cut the throat of the dragon, and I don't know what else could cut that throat but a great and mighty sword. And it is cut, and it's slashed right across here, and that's where he bled out in the desert. And that black and red blood is the vein and the arterial blood. That is absolutely no question that is factual. If you take that to show that to a guy that ever did an autopsy or was a coroner, they'll understand. Now, so what does that mean? Well, it seems like it could mean something pretty serious to me. But my point at this point is, this is Morocco. This is where that, whatever that's middle clay came from. That was loaded with minerals. Now, that's interesting to me. Now, is that strictly here, or are there other places that have that same mix of minerals? But I've been studying the Moroccan dragon for years now, and as much as I can, and just looking at it, I found where it spits out all its dragon juice and all that business, and how I've gone through its excretory system. It has the same it's an avian, a bird. It's just like a bird. It has an excretory system just like a bird. A cloaca, they call it. Anyway, I guess I don't know what else to do other than to just keep showing this, and sooner or later, you keep banging somebody's head against the wall. Sooner or later, the head cracks open or the wall comes down. And I don't know. I think these heads are so solid. I don't know if the wall ever come down. They have never relented unless there is so much evidence that there's nothing they can do. Now the only thing they can do is hide and ignore and really seriously hide. Nobody can challenge me. Not a word from them. Zero. So there is no challenging because they are defeated. And I have declared victory on every front in Mudfossil University. Every bit of our research surpasses every bit of anybody else's research. And if they can challenge any of the things that I have shown factually, I don't make any statements that I don't back up. If the things that you say are not true that I am backing up, you come to me with your evidence and prove to me that my evidence is wrong. My evidence is correct. Your evidence is theoretical and was wrong. Started from the wrong assumptions. And once you build a foundation on quicksand, you better might sink into quicksand, or you're just going to stand there on the top of the building and just keep screaming, I'm okay, don't worry. And that's what's happened. All right, the quicksand's giving out. Mudfossil University, home of the quicksand. You see that? Shocked quartz. Under intense pressure. They say that this is from these nuclear explosions, but I agree with that. But that is not what shocked quartz they say is. See this? This is irradiated quartz, not shocked quartz. This is what they usually call shocked quartz. I believe, I could be wrong. If I am, they should do something about it. You can tell me I'm wrong, but they won't. All right, this is what, here, hold on a second. Let me get a light on this. You see that? That is what they call shocked quartz. And it is not. That is transition metals, and this is a lung. That is a very small lung from an air-breathing, red-blooded creature. And in those crevices, you see those little pockets in there? That's where the blood ran. And it ran through these, which were originally pockets, and they were called alveoli. And they were holes where air floated through here, and the blood surrounded it, and they turned the contents of those air pockets into carbonic gases so that you could blow them out and evacuate them out of your body. And you could also take in oxygen and other things or whatever else you had to take in from the air. Right, that's what these are. This is not shock quartz. And if they say they're looking for shock quartz and they show you this, not shock quartz. Okay, I'll leave it with this. Kaolinite. That is clay. That is skin. And I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's got a bunch of hair in it and it's attached to a giant that now is part of the earth. I told you the giants were big. That is hair. That is hair. That's the black blood and the red blood of hair, and the hairs are also fed with blood. That's kaolin clay, my friends. I think God had good reason to flood the earth. What happened was the Titan blood, which was the DNA in the clay of the earth, was mixed together to make Adam. When that blood and that DNA mixed with the angel blood, which was not supposed to happen, they turned into this gigantic creatures. They were all 90 feet in the beginning. That's where it all started out at, apparently. That's what was written, and that was what was said by Muhammad when he ascended to heaven and met Adam. He said he was tall, 90 feet tall. And that is also, there was I think it was either Nebuchadnezzar or one of them built an idol to Adam, which was 90 feet tall, gold. It was one of them. I think it was Nebuchadnezzar, but it was during, I can't remember what it was, but it related to Daniel and that the Hebrew book of Revelations really is the book of Daniel. And they also claim 90 feet tall. So I'm going with that. And obviously the hairs here are 90 feet tall. So we got some serious issues. But you got to come around to reality. It's, you know, the dragon in the desert's over 1,000 miles long. And I'm sorry, that is just a fact. So until you come around and deal with the facts, you know, you're just hoping and whistling in the woods. It's a lot to learn, a lot to think about, and a lot to discuss. And it plays into a lot of seriousness. You can't just whistle in the woods and hope for the best. I'm not gonna. You might want to, but it's not gonna. I'm not gonna. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. That's Mud Fossil University. If you want truth, come up here and get truth. You go to these other universities and schools, you literally, for this kind of stuff, you're wasting your money. They're just reading to you things that they read that weren't right. The same thing with physics. It's not right. There is no neutrons. Light is the things that is electrons, and light comes from the sun and from every other luminous body. It is a particle. I've shown it accelerated. I mean, there's so much so wrong that until they start to open their eyes and confront what is pushed at them and said, explain this. They won't explain it. So I just don't care. I don't know. It doesn't work in my world. When I was in business, you couldn't get away with that. But I don't know. And that's a business. Trust me, that is a business. And I don't know. I think the FBI would come after you or something if you ran that in the real world. You'd never get away with it. I can guarantee you that. Anyway, that's the way it works. They espouse knowledge. I mean, you have to search knowledge. You have to seek it out, and you have to not refuse it when it comes. And that's what's happening.